Do you fancy winning a copy of Indomitus? Well, over these next weekenders until the release of Indomitus, if you like, share this video, and subscribe and post a comment below, you are entering an opportunity to win that amazing box set. We're going to be talking a bit about it on the show today. So get stuck in, get your entries in, and who knows, you might walk away with it. And if you get a chance, if you could share the show with some of your friends on Facebook or Twitter or some other way, that would be amazing. And let them get an entry as well. Right. Weekend starts now. Okay, guys, it's time to get stuck into all of the goodness in gaming this week. Mm-hmm. Right, we have Justin with us. Hey, Mr. Justin.
People keep asking about you in the comments.
Like, I have people messaging me through the store going, when are you coming back?
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, you're back today, man.
Yep.
I know. I feel better for seeing you. You're looking great, man. You're looking healthy. You're looking like a man with a plan.
The plan is keep getting those packages out to all the good little gamers out there.
Right. We've got to do the important bit first, don't we, guys? You know, it is a case of the little guy becomes our big guy.
Exactly.
Time for Indie of the Week.
There you go. So all the headphone wearers have now been destroyed. But yeah, so Indie of the Week this week was my choice. So yeah, hopefully it's all good.
Hopefully
we've had some stellar ones from Jerry over the last couple of weeks, so that's cool. But so my choice was going to Freebooter Miniatures, also Freebooter's Fate, which is the game that they produce.
That is no, that is what I meant to show. Sorry.
Yeah. So this is a German wargaming company that makes some absolutely fantastic looking miniatures. We've seen Freebooter's Fate over the years at Salute, and we've been following all they've been doing, putting their stuff into the news and all that kind of thing. And it's an absolutely stunning range of miniatures that are sort of like based around the idea of fantasy pirate adventures on the tabletop. They have some of the most characterful models I think I've seen out there, and they've been doing it for so long now that they've like refined this process to make some brilliant and sort of really weird and zany characters in the mix. There's the kind of things that they do. So you've got like your kind of like traditional pirates and that kind of thing, and you've got things like the Amazonians, which you're seeing here as well. You've got like goblin pirates. You've got sort of like undead. You've got the very fancy sort of flamboyant looking sort of guys based on the sort of English and the French and the Spanish from the kind of actual historical period and that kind of thing. And then within each of those sets, you've got a bunch of different characters that are sort of all going down to different sort of like angles and avenues and stuff to give you really interesting, fascinating models to paint. I mean, look at that cook. He's so cool.
I know, it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really, really awesome. The game itself is really fascinating as well. I did sort of like a little bit of reading up on it over the last couple of days, sort of preparing for this. And it's one of those games that's not focused on the idea of dice chucking. Yeah. Everything's done through the use of cards.
Nice. Yeah.
So one of the cool things you do with the game is that when you're doing combat, you have a hand of cards that are designated to parts of the body. So you've got like things like left arm, right arm, head, abdomen. But the photo of that is actually a goblin clutching his crotch, because you've been kicked in the nads, which is really awesome. And then what you do when you're doing combat is you choose a number of cards, put them on the table, and then your opponent does, and then you see whether or not they've matched up for attack and defense. And if any get through, you do damage to those locations on the body. Because one of the cool things about that as well is that the damage that your model takes actually goes onto certain statistics as well as their basic health. Mm-hmm. So you might get hit in the leg, and so your movement goes down, or you might get hit in the arm, so it's harder for you to swing your sword and that kind of thing. And that then links through to the whole tactical aspect of that part of the game, being when you're going to go and hit that sniper, he doesn't necessarily need to use his legs very often, but you need to go for the arms, so he's going to be protecting that. So it's all about playing those cards at the right time and trying to suss out what your opponent's going to do.
Mhm.
It's a really fun and sort of deep and inventive, sort of creative war game in that kind of skirmish venue, which I really, really like.
Yeah.
They've done loads and loads of videos. A lot of them are in German. They've done a few of them in English as well, which is really cool for you to dive in and have a look at. They do have like a how to play page, which we'll link down in the comments below and stuff as well. But generally, I think just this game is one that you need to go and check out if you like the idea of fantasy pirates, because the miniatures are just stunning, as you can see.
Oh, they're beautiful.
I'm really digging the Brotherhood here.
Yes. Yeah.
It's this is Werner Klock is behind this, and we have met Werner at Salute a few times. Jerry's a big name in the kind of the miniature wargaming industry.
He is.
Very well known guy. So
he's sculpted for everybody from GW to Reaper. He's done Raoul Parther as well. He's been everywhere. I think he still sculpts possibly for Reaper, apart from doing the Freebooter's Fate, which is his own thing. If you go into the shop, Justin, and then go to, there's the people I want to see. But if you,
do you own this up big?
Can do. You can get better pictures in the shop if you just go to the mercenary section though.
Okay.
To actually have a few of these. And this is one of the reasons why I like this, even not as a game, but as a thing for painters. Don Pavo is everybody's favorite Egyptian.
Yeah.
I love it.
So you may remember the prancing peacock feathered wearing get from Highlander.
Oh yeah.
And then there's also a Lara Croft-esque character, which I have as well. And they're just really, really nice characters to get, even as painters.
As collectibles,
As collectible. Freebooter's Fate's one of these games where it's very big in Germany, and it has a very popular fan base, but it doesn't really seem to get much coverage beyond that. It seems to truck away, and it's been going now for
many
5 years.
Or more, because even our first Salutes that we covered nearly 10 years ago now. Freebooter's Fate was out. It's been around a long time. It's a well-established franchise.
One of the things that sort of like has developed over the years is, as well as having that core set of rules, and I think they're going towards, or they may have already, that second edition or the next edition of it in the wings. They've also done loads of like campaign and scenario supplements. So if you want to go down the narrative route and follow that kind of idea, they have loads and loads of books that do that too, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And the fact that the game is very specific, like specifically tied to the idea of card playing and everything being on the cards for the different characters, it means there's less less of a language barrier when it comes to the way you're playing the game too, which I think is really cool, because it all comes down to that kind of bluffing mentality and that kind of thing, which I think is really nice.
Yeah.
This is one of those companies I always have to stop off with. I've never played the game, but I adore the miniatures. So anytime we're like at Salute, I always just, in a moment whenever I'm just running to get an interview on the way past, it's just like, I'll grab one of those and on.
Yeah. I remember the first time I saw Freebooter's Fate and Freebooter Miniatures at Salute. They do this thing where they have like a little tiny cart with their demo board on it, and they wheel it around the hall to play games and show things off. They're dressed as pirates, which is always awesome, because you got to do that, right?
Oh yeah, pirates.
Yeah, and it's always fun seeing what they do and what they've got sort of like lined up and that kind of thing too. So.
To deviate, because it wouldn't be like me to deviate.
But, no, of course not, right?
I just want to talk a little bit about this idea of card-driven games, because in recent years and months, I've got to say, my own personal gaming passion has probably moved away from dice based mechanics, and more to card-based mechanics. And recently, I've been thinking a lot about card-based mechanics in tabletop adventure games. Now, I call a tabletop adventure game. A tabletop adventure game is like something between a dungeon crawler and Mordheim. It's about free moving miniatures. They could be indoors, outdoors, whatever, moving around, doing their thing, having an adventure of some sort. So it's more focused on that smaller number of individual models interacting with the play space in some capacity. And recently, I used cards in my adaptation of rules for the Crusades game and a version of a fantasy battle kind of game. But for a while, I have been looking at this card-driven mechanic within that smaller scale adventure kind of realm. And here's why. Many years ago, I was researching close combat mechanics, melee gaming mechanics, and I came across a game. Oh, it must have been published about 4.5 million years ago, but it was a sword fighting game. Okay. And you had your miniatures, and they moved around a small tabletop, but each player had a deck of cards, and in those deck of cards were flourishes and the different kinds of sword play maneuver. And basically what you did was you played your sword play against their sword play. And I didn't think it was the best executed thing, because I looked at it and I immediately thought, oh, there's more interesting ways to execute this. But the thing that really took me was the fact that it's as close to a sword fight as you are likely to get on the tabletop, because you literally were choosing your attack strokes, how you were going to approach the attack of this or these enemies. And I find it fascinating. And the great thing about a card is a well-designed card, a single card can do so many things. It can tell you what your defense options are. It can tell you what your attack options are. It can tell you some random encounter that might happen, all within the same small space. And I think that it opens up a different kind of a game where you move away from the Arnold Rimmer, I threw a 4 and then he rolled a 6, and then 2, and then he rolled a 5. And I think it gives you a way to very, very narratively express.
It's one of the things that I've always liked about the idea of cards in games, especially when seeing things like Malifaux and then in Freebooter's Fate as well, is that it kind of brings things in world, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
Like with Malifaux, it's all about that kind of the weave of the fates and sort of like pushing your luck. And so when you're drawing the cards, it's almost like you're doing like a tarot reading of the game, that kind of thing. And it sort of fits into the idea of the weird and then the sort of quirky of that. In Freebooters, they kind of tied all their artwork into the card design. And it also plays into the idea of, pirates love to gamble and bluff and outgun each other and that kind of thing. And so when you have cards used really well within a game setting, I think it really works nicely. And I think it would be really cool to see someone do something in the same vein as what you're talking about with that old game, like a sword fighting game. I'd love to see someone do like a proper swords and sorcery style game where you used cards in that way. I think that would be really fun.
Yeah, well, it's like I said, it is something I enjoy exploring different kinds of game mechanics. Has Jerry
does it, of course?
Yeah. Jerry, have you found one? Can you tell us about that?
So Moonstone,
so I can see him. Yeah,
Moonstone is a large-scale fantasy skirmish game. So these miniatures are closer to sort of 40 mil, but within the game, when you're fighting, and it's very whimsical, it's very Brian Froud. You've got goblins that look like this, fairies and all sorts, but they all have a specific set of attacks that they can use, and they're based on the HEMA, the historical medieval martial arts. The European, you may see them on YouTube or something where they're fencing or they're fighting with a longsword. So they're based on specific styles of sword play, and your character will go, you can have a high attack, a parry, a riposte, a special, blah blah blah, and then it will tell you what your defenses are, or the defenses may be set, so low guard, high guard blocks. And when you're playing, when somebody comes to attack the attacker, like in fencing, the attacker attacks first and you choose your defense.
Yes.
Or you can choose to attack back, but it will have on the card, it'll go, you've chosen this attack. It's completely negated by this, this, and this block.
Mhm.
Or if it's this block, then it'll get through, but maybe do limited damage. Or if it's this block, it'll completely get through. Or they may choose to attack back against you, and you'll both do equal damage or some variation based on that. So it is essentially the HEMA sword fighting. It works very well. It's interesting, but it's historically accurate, and then with a fantasy twist, because you can do those spectacular, flamboyant Ineo Montoya, Princess Bride style attacks, that shouldn't
which
exist.
again works within the world.
But works within the world
Moonstone.
that they've built. Yeah. So it's a really nice little set where you do have that parry, thrust, riposte, or you can just go, I'm going down, but I'm taking you with me.
The interesting thing about that, Jerry, is as well is let's take it to its basics. Something that we all know: barbarian, dwarf, elf, wizard.
Yeah.
You could have a deck, a deck tuned to those character classes, so that so they feel the combat of those characters feels tight to that character.
Yeah.
It really is a very interesting aspect, and it's something I would like to explore more and see more of.
Well, there is one more, and that hasn't been mentioned. Myself and Jerry did a Let's Play for, which was Oathmark. And what it actually does is, so you've got a deck of cards that you can draw from during the round, but you can also roll dice. So it actually builds in sort of an inherent fairness. So if you know how many cards are in the deck and what's in the deck, as you're digging down through, you'll go, okay, was it not Oathmark?
Oathsworn.
Oathsworn, sorry, apologies. But you have that option to actually build yourself up and have your deck sort of ready for your big, flourish attack while you're working with the dice as well.
Yeah. Jerry, are you having eye leakage issues?
Hay fever?
Yeah, I got a bit of grit in it about 3 days ago, and it's
ouch.
Yeah.
Ouch.
It's very painful.
Right. Anyway, guys, Freebooter Miniatures. You can check them out at freebooterminiatures.de.
I just want to point out as well that even though a lot of their stuff is there in German, they do have loads of boxes that are in English as well. So if the game does look good for you, then go and pick it up and check it out. And they do routinely bring out a lot of their supplements in both German and then English later as well. So go and have a look at all the books and that kind of thing too. It really is an absolutely fantastic little miniatures range full of really fascinating and characterful miniatures. So go and have a look.
Cool. Awesome stuff. Really nice choice there, Ben. Right. I sense some news on the way. Coming to you from the center of Northwestern Europe. Covering board games, war games, card games, and all that you love. It's the news.
Right, yeah, so diving into some news from this week in the tabletop world. The first little bit of news, actually, I'm going to pass over to Jerry in just a second, but it's from the guys at Two Fat Lardies, who have now got pre-orders up for their new ancient skirmish game called Infamy.
They've all got it in for me.
I was going to do that, but goddamn, you stole it. All right,
everybody wants it.
I'm going to pass over to Jerry to talk about.
Can I just interject at this point, right?
Feel free.
Because I think it was on the show last week that it was recommended to me to watch Rome.
Yes, Rome. Yeah.
I have now started to watch that.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah.
And thumbs up. It's a horny show, guys.
Well,
it's not child friendly, no.
Anything to do with the Romans, Warren, it's going to be like that. Come on.
Yes.
History to the TV show. They've got to up the game, so...
I will admit, I'm becoming more and more drawn to the Romans, the more I find out that their sense of humor is not a kick in the ass off my sense of humor. So do you see that Roman city, Jerry? Okay. I am now utterly convinced that I could do the graffiti on that. No problem whatsoever. So yes, I so
Just need
far
Lloyd to build it for me then.
Yeah, I'm 2 episodes in to Rome. I am enjoying it. I am enjoying it, so I'm looking forward to getting it on. So infamy from Two Fat Lordies just couldn't have arrived at a better time, really.
I was going to say, as an interesting segue into the game itself, the opening scene from Rome, where they're fighting in the regiment, and then he's blowing the whistle and moving the men forward and charging out and everything like that. Properly on board with that kind of thing in Infamy and Infamy. But yeah,
yes,
nice.
Jerry, you got a first look.
I did. I've been delving into the rules. So while it's described as large skirmishes, I want to make this clear. It's not every man for themselves running about little mobs. It's footprint-based units. So when they say large skirmishes, they mean as opposed to a battle. So you've got units, they're still formed up, they have footprints. But the game itself runs from 60 BC to 100 AD. So essentially it's late Republican moving into early Imperial Rome. And it's based around the North Europe area. So you have army lists in there for the Gauls. So you can do Caesar's.
So can I, right. So just as I know people are going to say I'm going to butcher this, but I'm just going to clarify. So late Republic into early Imperial.
Yes.
That's the Caesar transition, is it?
Yes. So it goes from.
So that is the show Rome that we're watching.
Could be
based in that period, isn't it? Because it's all about.
I've never seen it.
Well, it looks to me to be all about Caesar taking his absolute power. So
campaign against the Gauls and that kind of thing.
Yeah. In that case, that's spot on for it.
Right. So late Republic to early Imperial.
Early Imperial. So 60
is the heyday of
AD.
it. Okay. Mm-hmm.
And it means you've got a system where you can play both types of Romans. So if you're familiar with Roman legionnaires from from Gladiator, or as we see there, those would be the sort of, they actually look more like auxiliary, but they could be. They're not wearing the segmented armor, they've got chainmail on. You've got that later period, the early Imperial. Or if you want to play the Caesar's invasion of Gaul and then the further invasions into Britain with the Republican Romans, both of those lists are in there. You've also got Germans, Gauls and Britons. In that you can play any of these sort of areas, but the really interesting mechanics in the game, because you've got things that I know Lloyd would love, where your units are based on footprints, but you still have casualty removal, but the unit doesn't extend or contract. They just reach a point where they're going to break and run off. But if you're supported by units attached to you, you can mob up essentially, so you don't end up with these little 2-man units or 3-man units running about,
being
really
really
being effective. Or just running off altogether. You've got that ability to push people into the front line to replenish casualties in your fighters and things like that. So it is more like a formed combat. You can take your single unit and move it forward, or you can combine them together, because there's an element of command and control. The game revolves around the leaders, and it has that usual Lardy's mechanic that you see in the likes of Sharp Practice, where cards are dealt and that leader activates, or the Tiffin card from Sharp's Practice has become the Tempest Fugit card, and that ends the act. So you have this possibility that maybe not everything is going to complete its action in that.
Justin, scroll up there to get a look at the game. Click that there so as I can see that.
Some of the stuff on table then.
So Jerry, I was as a possibility for could I treat it almost Kings of War style, where could I just model them onto the bases and just just them there, and
all you need to do is be able to
instead.
Yeah, just a dice on the back of the base, a D10 or D12 or whatever you happen to,
or a standard or something, a Roman standard with little bits hanging off it or something like that. Maybe.
Yeah, because you've got this very set footprint. So the barbarians normally come in units of 10. the cavalry come in units of 6, skirmishers will be units of 6, and then formed sort of professional soldiers will be units of 8. So they always have this, and as long as your footprint matches for both forces, it doesn't really matter whether you're going to go for 100, 120, 50 mil, whatever it happens. You work that out with yourself and your friend, because you can play this in multiple scales as well. It's not scale specific. It looks better 28 mil, but you can easily play it in 15 or 6 or whatever you want, because you're just
going to play it in 2.
You can play them. You could.
It has to be square bait. It has to be square formation.
It has to be square. Yeah. Yeah.
Look at you trying to sneak the rounds in there.
Now, hang on. The rounds are in there. It's just they're on a round base going into a square base.
Yeah. Well, no, it's just I'm looking at it now. Now that what you're saying, I was originally looking at it thinking, I could do this, Kings of War style, with
little
the
dioramas and stuff.
Yeah, little dioramas and minis on it. But I've got to say, Jerry, now that based on what you've just told me, I want to do it 15 mil. Dioramas. I would even. Do you know what? I would even go with the square dioramas. But I'm looking for an excuse to do a mass battle kind of diorama kind of thing, and this could well be it.
And here's the thing: even though they suggest if you're going to be playing in 15, drop your board size and drop your unit sizes down. You could keep them the same as they are for 28 and just pack more people on there.
That's exactly what I was going to do.
At that point, this skirmish game becomes essentially a mass battle game.
Yeah. But I wouldn't think I would just I would keep it all exactly as it is. But I just, as you know, I just like the texture that a 15 mil game brings to the tabletop. Just with the
that cinematic feel.
Yeah, it looks like more dudes there. Do you know what I mean? More is more in my world, So
so hang on, that saying has came from terrain and is now transferring into your miniatures. Okay.
Well, Justin, look, I'm a simple guy in many respects.
You're a cinematic gamer.
I'm not hard to please. You
just want everything you can lay on a table.
Yeah, I have very. I'm a Neanderthal. Okay. I'm a Neanderthal. So, to me, more is more. So,
trust me, I know. I've been to yours for Christmas dinner.
So whenever I'm looking at a battle on the table, if I have the prospect of running it with a
grander
texture, I'll do that.
It's a beautifully designed system, because it's tied into the scenarios more so than some other games. I think there's 8 scenarios in the book, and some of them are subdivided. So, raiding the village could be going in and setting fire to a crop, or going in and grabbing a hostage, like the chieftain's son or something. So when the forces are built, you build your core force, and then you work out the scenario, and then the attacker rolls to see if they've got support, and the support can increase the size of their force, and then the defender kind of matches that. But it's always, you're never just playing 2 pitched battles or 2 pitched armies just clashing. It's always scenario driven, which is very interesting, because if you've got something to do, yes, the Romans may be a professional body and theoretically better fighters than the barbarians in certain instances. If you're having to remember that it's all about the scenario, and yes, you're a better fighter in an open plain, but you're having to send a unit in to set fire to this crop or get this guy, and it might take several turns to get them because of the task rule that they've baked into the system, where it's like a cumulative roll. So you might, setting fire to a crop might be a 6+, and you roll turn 1, you roll a 3, turn 2, you roll a 2. Next turn you'll definitely get it, or you could go in on turn 1 and roll a 6 and go, I'm done. But then, like, kidnapping is maybe like a 12, so you're not going to do it that quickly, or setting fire to the whole village and burning it to the ground and salting it so nothing will grow. It's like a 16. So yes, you could do it in 3 turns potentially, but more likely it's going to take 5 or 6 turns. And so having to compartmentalize part of your force to go and do the scenario while the rest of your force is dealing with your enemy combatants. Kind
of managing your luck element in that kind of thing.
And your enemy is actually trying to get to that compartmentalized fragment of your army to go, no, bad Romans, no.
And later on in the game, because you've got Signa cards, which can be used to activate or to give you certain bonuses, additional dice for combat or whatever it happens to be. You start the game with them, but then when you use them, they get set into a deck, and at the end of every turn, that deck gets shuffled and dealt out, and that's fine up until the point where 4 Signet cards are dealt out in a consecutively. So turn 1, you're not going to get it. Turn 2, you might get it if you've been very blasé, very toss. I'm going to chuck all these cards down to get the bonuses to do a lot of damage now because I'm going to get them back. But what happens then is they're random tables, and after the 4th card's been turned, you roll on a random event chart. That could be anything from your leader slips and falls and that unit ends its move, or if you're in combat, you might take additional shock, or maybe no combat is fought, so you're going, I'm going to go in here, I'm definitely going to do a lot of damage, and then because you were too quick to throw those cards down earlier, it's detrimental to you now, so you've got to manage that component of the game as well. You can't just go, I'm going to push all in early, because then that might hamper your plans later. And at that point, you're going, well, I was betting on that happening so I could do this, this, and this, but now, because I was too blasé, that's not happened, and I've got to rethink my tactics for the rest of the turn. And always you've got that Tempest Fugit card when it comes out. Well, it's going to stop you anyway, so you can never depend on getting everything done when you want to get it done. You've always got to manage that. So yeah, it's a fascinating set of rules. I'm looking forward to playing it.
Absolutely.
I want to get this down on the table because I love the work that Two Fat Lardies do.
Yeah, and I love Romans. It turns out. Justin, I think it's the perfect opportunity for you to unleash your mutinous tootness army.
Not exactly historically accurate.
I don't think the Lardies would mind. I don't think the Lardies would mind one bit.
Are there any left, or have they all gone in people's packages?
I have been sneaking 1 or 2 in whenever people have been asking for like little gifts and things. No, because look, whenever people are sending messages and stuff into the store, I've had people ask me for jokes, limericks, legends, and little extra gifts.
It's okay, man. Look.
Oh God! Oh, you got a new 3D printer.
We have another 3D printer, man. So
what makes that?
We can. This is the Photon S, Justin.
Oh, nice.
So that one's coming down to you, okay?
Because one thing that I am wanting to experiment with is some more 3D printing, because I found some files for Battlefleet Gothic.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, we'll come to that. But that's
I want to get some spaceships done though.
We have the Photon S here now.
Yeah, we have the Photon here.
To do a comparison with the Photon. So the Photon S is an upgrade.
Okay.
Justin. So it has dual linear rails at the back.
Okay, instead of the single rail.
Yeah,
okay.
Which should limit some of that
that wiggle.
Wiggle that you would see on the Z-axis. Z-axis. It also has an improved UV curing thing, so it'll cure faster.
Cool.
The resolution is the same, but the actual end result of the print is actually slightly sharper again than the previous one. But most importantly of all, between the Photon S, the Photon, and the Mars behind
you run, yeah.
We can produce more mutinous tootness now than ever before. So, Justin,
welcome back to the show.
You will never run out of mutinous tootness now for the rest of your life. And I know
this is the thing. I'll get rid of them, and I'll come into the studio, and Warren's going to start hiding them on shelves. I'm going to turn around to pick down like Spartacus or something off a shelf, and there's just one of these things waiting, staring at me, hiding behind boxes.
Dude, you watch the Discord, man.
Oh, God.
Because mutinous tootness painting tutorials, I hear, are in the works, especially for you.
I did see Manda Pie had been running 1 or 2 off.
Yeah, they're coming your way, man.
Oh God!
And do you want to know the most exciting piece of news?
This is going to turn into like a bad Alfred Hitchcock movie.
So we're going to be kicking up the 3D printing aspects of what we're doing. So we've got plans afoot for some cool 3D printing stuff going on. I managed to get us an Elegoo Saturn.
Okay, is that a big one?
Oh yes, Justin, it's a big one.
Okay.
So the Elegoo Saturn is the upgrade from the Elegoo Mars. So the Elegoo Mars is sitting behind me.
Yeah.
There's the Elegoo Mars Pro,
Mm-hmm.
which is a bit like the Photon S, is a dual linear rail
Yeah.
kind of thing with an upgraded. But the Elegoo Saturn is a bigger version. Okay,
Big bed.
dual rail,
Mhm.
big bed,
Mhm.
4K mono screen.
Oh,
So
that's
this is
interesting.
so rather than being basically like a refactored kind of mobile phone screen,
Mhm.
this is a dedicated 4K screen with upgraded UV light aspects. So
My biggest question for that then is how much bigger have they made the tank? Because that FEP on the bottom, if you go too big with that, don't know if it's going to hold up.
Oh no, this is superb. Okay. No, it's not going to come to us until like September, and it took me 2 goes to get it.
Really?
Yeah, I tried to get in on the early bird stuff to try and get us one, but it sold out in, I think it was like 15 seconds.
That makes sense.
So then I managed to get in on the second round, which sold out in 2 minutes. But we did manage to get one because
see, this is why you should never have stopped playing video games. Keep those reflexing, man. That trigger finger. That trigger finger.
I just don't have the reflexes anymore. I'm just old
I
Jeff
know.
Burton says. Anyway, so
that's
yeah,
cool,
in homage to the Lardies, Justin will in fact complete his. Okay, infamy. We've all got an infamy. I can't.
He's got an infamy.
Yes, I'm gonna have a look at the some 15 mil.
Awesome.
So that I just see how it goes. So I'm thinking Romans versus Vikings.
Ooh, that's good.
That would be late Middle Imperial. So
yes, with a dash of Victorian on the side. Yeah.
Right. What's next, Ben?
Vikings.
So next up is from some more stuff from Monster Fight Club. So they've been doing their Cyberpunk Red miniatures line, and the new set of releases for this are all about the cyber generation, as they called it. So within the world of Cyberpunk Red, the corporations have basically destroyed society and ruined life for a lot of people, and that means that when it comes to the mean streets of the cities of the Cyberpunk universe, you're going to have to carry a weapon however old you are. And so when it comes to the cyber generation, they're rocking around with SMGs, swords, bladed hockey sticks, a quad launcher, because, why not, right? All sorts of crazy stuff. So if you're putting together gangs or you're making maybe a character for a Cyberpunk Red game, then these kids are out there for you to go and pick up and play around with, which is very, very cool. The thing I like about this is the idea of building up some kind of like awesome scenarios around this. So maybe one of the criminal gangs or one of the corporations is using these kids to kind of like ferry things around and that kind of stuff. And so you've got to go in there with your characters and try and find out what the whole situation is. Maybe team up with some of them to try and get them out from under the yoke of the corporations or the criminals. I think that could be kind of awesome. So yeah, some really cool miniatures again from these guys. These are all going to be out towards the end of June, so not too long to wait for those. And then I've been assured there is a lot more coming in July as well from the guys from Monster Fight Club, including some awesome terrain stuff as well. So
I wonder if they're going to add kids into Cyberpunk Red when it launches.
That would be really cool. Yeah,
as either a faction or as a option to play, because you've seen that a lot recently with the likes of Free League and stuff doing the
exactly
with the Tales of the Loop and stuff. Yeah.
Because one of the things I like about that is the idea of maybe because when you play make characters for Cyberpunk, you go through like a how did you grow up kind of thing.
Yes.
And I love the idea of doing something with the character generation where you say, well, actually, I'm just 16 and doing like a couple of years worth of your thing and then using the role play as the way to play out the rest of your sort of time as a character. I think that could be really awesome rather than being like an old grizzled detective or something like that. That'd be cool.
Yeah, you could stop midway. You could play as the youths. I hope that bubble is separate on that hockey stick carrying girl. Because unless you're particularly good at painting transitions of bubbles and stuff, that's going to look like Bobo the Clown is coming at you.
See, I don't know the little lass with the quad launcher. I just imagine her walking around the street going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't want you to be alive.
Right, next up, I saw this earlier in the week, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Wow, this is cool." So this is some 10mm wood elves.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's 10 mil.
That is 10 mil.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
impressive.
Yes.
isn't it? Isn't it just Ben? What
Yeah.
can you tell us about them?
Okay, so these have been printed off by a company called Printing InDesign. They hold a merchant level with a Patreon called Forest Dragon 3D. So Forest Dragon 3D are the sculptors behind this range, which is absolutely fantastic. And they seem to be looking forwards to doing a whole bunch of extra stuff in the future. But Printing Design have taken their merchant level sort of backing of the Patreon and printed these off in absolutely insane quality for not just 3D printing, but 10 mil as a whole. And I think these look absolutely stunning if you're looking to try and put together a fantasy force and play around in that kind of smaller scale on the tabletop. The detail on these is just, it's bafflingly good. It's so awesome. But, yeah.
Now, I wonder if the 3D files are coming with these scaffolds already done on them.
Well, there's one
Or
way
if this is
to
something
find out. If you click the link to Forest,
Yeah, there should be a link at the top
Forest
of the...
the dragon,
there we go.
Yeah,
that
got
will
it.
take us through to the Patreon.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure they're all pre-supported, but this is the Patreon itself.
I can't see
Well,
anything.
You can
I would have to join.
join in, yeah. But
Oh, wait,
There you go. There's some of the
well, there's.
files.
I
and
think
stuff.
that's some of the completed ones.
yeah,
Oh,
Aren't
they're
they
gorgeous, though. Absolutely love those.
You see, like, because I've been playing around, a lot of people will know, I've been playing around with like Middle Earth in 10 mil, and I'm really loving it. And I think that the way of the idea of making massive armies, a bit like what we were talking about before with 15 mil at that scale,
all
it's just such an awesome idea. It's really,
it's all texture. It's like there's a lot of scales, as we're going to find out in the show today. There's a lot of scales kind of competing over ground at the moment. Like in this show alone, I've talked about 15 mil. Here we have 10 mil. I think a little bit later we're going to be talking about 12 mil. It's where it settles. I don't know, but I've got to say, like, look at that for texture. Look at that.
Yeah. That's the thing that I really like about what Printing and Design are doing as well, because obviously not everyone's going to have access to 3D printing or a lot of these Patreons.
Yes.
And the ability to take something from there and create it themselves. And so having people coming in at those merchant levels to not only support the sculptors and give these individuals, a little bit of money towards what they want to do going forward and their creative endeavors, they're also providing people like me with the option to pick up things like this and paint awesome looking armies and stuff as well. So it's a really nice little partnership between the two. I think it's really good.
Ben, if Mutinous Tootinous happens to be your thing, man, we'll probably have some left over, by the time we're finished.
Get a couple of baggies of those.
Where's the dead horse here? Where's the dead horse?
Not 10 mil, unfortunately. I do like how they are. They're
no, they're 8 inch.
Master.
So
I do like the idea of this, because 3D printing is still just on that sort of cusp of becoming easy for people just to dive into without any problems. I mean, like, I know we've got the 3D printing segment set up in the Discord, and people have been having problems, and it's been really nice to see folks jumping in who've been playing around with it for longer, trying to help folks out.
it's getting there. It's getting there.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, so definitely worth checking that one out. I was blown away by what I saw there, and those prints by Printing Design, they are quality prints. They are quality prints. I'm not sure what they're using to print that, but that's some good kit.
But you want it.
That is some good kit that they're using to print that. There's no doubt. Right, World War III, Ben.
Yes.
What's happening in the world of World War III?
Well, it's going on at the moment. No, it's not going on at the moment. But the guys at Battlefront Miniatures are working towards releasing a whole bunch of new stuff for the Americans as they make their entry into World War III Team Yankee, not only through the end of June, but also into July as well. They have a whole raft of new pre-orders up on their website right now. They have the main book, which is all about detailing the forces of the period, all the different sort of like army compositions and formations you can put together when it comes to building the game. It also comes with a whole bunch of different scenarios in there for playing out a battle between the Americans and the Soviets and that kind of thing too. this is all then bookended with, as I say, a lot of the miniatures. So a lot of stuff has been either repackaged or sort of redesigned and added into the mix for both their starter force, as you can see there, which comes rocking all the armor as is wont to be. Plus, of course, excellent helicopters. So
beauty, Ben. Thing of beauty.
It is fantastic.
I was wondering why this turned up in the office.
Pretty good too.
There you go. Justin's got one right there. So
I have the book.
Embiggen yourself.
Embiggen myself. All right,
So
all right.
we can see it. Yeah.
So I wondered why this turned up, and I now need to give this across to John because I know he's probably been salivating, waiting for it. Oops, sorry.
But look at that starter set.
The starter set is cool. Let me bring it back up.
15 mil, guys.
Yeah, 15 mil.
And the beauty of it is the manufacturing processes and the 3D printing and stuff that's available to us now. Look, I could understand 15 mil not being the most popular thing a few years back. When a lot of 15 mil minis, let's be honest, were little blobs. They weren't that. They weren't that great. It's. I
love the Humvees.
These are beautiful. These are absolutely beautiful. I want that. Absolutely want that. I think that's just going to be amazing. Oh, it's just.
You got Abrams rolling out. You got Harriers. You want to add a little bit of a British Warthogs. So you can unleash the firepower of the Warthogs on the tabletop.
Warthog go burr.
But as well as obviously I've sort of focused on some of the bigger tanks and the aircraft for this pre-orders, but they've also got all the other stuff in there as well. So there's going to be vehicles, support vehicles, artillery, that kind of thing too. So
Jerry, most of that stuff that we're looking at there, maybe bar the Harrier, maybe the Harriers too. That's all Desert Storm compatible stuff, isn't it?
Most of it would be, yeah.
Yes, so if you wanted to take that into,
some of it will have been supplanted by the time Desert Storm rolled around, which was what 90s.
But there were certainly Warthogs, there were certainly Humvees. I'm fairly certain that the
definitely Abrams
were there as well. There was a game many years ago called Full Spectrum Warrior.
I remember it well. Yeah.
Superb. Absolutely superb game. I think I played it on the Xbox.
Based on the simulation technology that the actual US Army were using as well.
Yeah.
So.
I have, in my pursuit of moderns, a lot of it has been influenced by that first exposure to Full Spectrum Warrior. And I'm just looking at this and I'm just thinking to myself, I'm not going to have them in Europe. I'm going to take all that stuff. I'm going to repaint it in desert colors, and I'm going to shift it to battles around.
I mean, it is World War III after all.
That's
it. This is
in the name.
With
the relaunch of Team Yankee as World War III, they brought in the Oil War supplement into the main. So essentially, you've got your Iraqi, Jordanian,
Israelis,
and Israeli troops down there as well. So it's like I say, it's all cross-compatible.
Do you know what?
If I was to do a force for this, I'm going to put my hand up now. The Americans would severely tempt me.
Yeah,
digital camo.
Tough. I'm doing them.
Looks like I'm going Israeli then.
So yeah, I'm doing them. I absolutely, utterly sold. That is just, it's the Humvees. The Humvees and the Warthogs just do it for me, man. I just because I could recreate that crowning moment of the Desert Storm and related campaigns, where the U.S. military stumbled across a Nephilim giant in the mountain.
God.
What?
a six-fingered Nephilim giant, Justin, a proper old biblical giant, right? 6 fingers and 2 sets of teeth, right? And he tore apart a special forces unit, and another special forces unit went in to find out what happened to that special forces unit. They were attacked by this Nephilim giant who had been hiding in these Middle Eastern mountains. Okay,
what box in your brain are you reaching into right now?
No, this is
box.
no. This is absolutely true. I saw this on YouTube, man, and what they did was that they managed to bring him down and kill him. Okay, and story has been told now by 2 independent sources. One of the pilots of the transport plane that flew the body back to the US for it to be looked at.
To what, Area 52?
And
this sounds like a bad low rent B movie.
No, Area 5'2", and and some of the special forces guys who were actually involved in the actual combat with the Nephilim giant, and managed to kill him. You know, it's this is it. You know, Team Yankee is just unlocked this to me. If I get that, and then all I need to do is head across to Mantic and pick up their giant, and this is it.
There you go. Yeah.
World War III giant fighting.
I've got.
What do you think? Would you like to know more?
Absolute historical gaming at its best.
At its peak, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So yeah, World War III is hotting up. Must buy.
Yes.
But get in line, folks, because I'm going to get mine first. Just don't tell Andrea, okay? Right.
Now, see, here, Warren, what happens is your delivery address is the office. And when you take it home, no, that was just sent to us for review. We're done with it.
Right.
Big brain.
Right. Core Space, Ben, there's some new stuff on the way.
Yeah, so a little bit of a teaser of what the guys at Battle Systems have coming up. Core Space is one of those games that I think it should definitely be on everybody's list if you like sci-fi. If you like things like Firefly and all those kind of like sci-fi adventure movies and TV shows and that kind of thing, then this is really the game for you. You play as like a crew of traders that are going to try, steal into like space stations and get your hands on goodies and all sorts of things like that. As typical space ruffians are meant to do.
Yeah, you can kidnap the locals.
You can kidnap the locals. We've got loads of Let's Plays, actually, which I'll link down below in the show notes so you can go and check those out. But the main focus of what they've got coming up next is a new expansion/starter set for Core Space. This is going to introduce...
Wait. I've got... For the rest of this conversation, I actually have something. I made this for this week's radio show, and I forgot to flip and play it, right?
Okay.
But let me see if I can get it to work.
Oh, God.
I have Cantina texture. Okay? So we're now in a sci-fi cantina.
Okay, cool. Right.
So we're sitting, we're all drinking blue milk. Okay?
No.
And we can talk about Core Space. So
there you go, perfect, yeah.
Proceed.
Okay, so I've heard tell of a strange alien race out on the Outer Rim called the Firstborn. And this is going to be the new alien race that is going to be the sort of focus of the attack that's going to happen in the new core set. So instead of it being focused on the idea of the sort of like the robot on the Purge, it's instead moving over to this alien race that decided to come back into the mix to try and deal with all the traders that are out there right now. The new set is going to come with all these new miniatures in it. As I start to break the fourth wall of this lovely cantina scene. So it's got all these miniatures in it from the Firstborn. It's also going to have a whole bunch of new traders in the mix, but it's all going to be centered around one crew, because the new set, as I say, is a little bit of an expansion in a kind of way, because it's going to be all focused around the idea of you being able to play the game solo. Now, you can play Core Space solo anyway. You can also play it with up to 4 players, which is really awesome. Each of you take control of a crew, or maybe you take control of the same one, etc., that kind of thing. This main focus is going to be on the idea of it being this kind of solo play adventure, which I think is really awesome. Throwing in new aliens, new terrain, which is going to be fantastic to see what they do, which is very cool. This is all coming off the back of Battle Systems finishing off and starting to deliver their fantasy terrain set. And so this is them moving on to see what they want to do next when it comes to Core Space and sci-fi.
Sorry, man, the band are playing a catchy tune.
I know, it's really distracting me as well. But yeah, so what you can do right now, you can go over and check out all the stuff they've got on their web store. We'll have a link down below to Core Space and the Let's Plays and that kind of thing as well. Really, really evocative, interesting, fun, narrative, campaign-style game set in that kind of like sort of... that kind of aesthetic of Firefly and that kind of thing, which is very cool. So go and check it out if you want to go and learn more about this.
And that's that.
There you go. What a wonderful segment that was.
I feel great. Jerry, I spent hours putting that together for a Star Wars segment that was going into Wednesday night's radio show. Only to reach the segment and being so stressed with all the buttons that I had to press, I forgot to use it. I forgot to use it. So I was thinking to myself, all those hours wasted, but no,
I'm sure
they
weren't
weren't
the last
wasted.
time Star Wars gets mentioned.
I don't think it's going to disappear into the ether just yet.
Yeah.
Right, definitely go head across to Core Space and check that out, guys. Right, back into the odd scales again. Now we're in the 12 mil World War II from Victrix.
Yeah, so the guys at Victrix
Weird.
have put together their own range of miniatures for use in World War II. This is all under the label. It's normally Victrix Limited, but this is now Victrix Games, and they're specifically focused on the idea of creating 12 mil stuff for World War II right now, using all the different games that are out there. There are many that are sort of like system agnostic and that kind of thing, much like these ranges here. But they've released the first couple of sets of tanks. So they have the Panzer IV-H, the Stug 3, which I know will be a big favourite of yours there, Warren. You've got the Panther Alf G, Sherman M4A3 75mm, and the Cromwell. So this is just a quick look at some of the stuff they've been doing for this. They're all, as you can see here, quick and easy to build models. So they've been done so that they're specifically modeled for gaming effectively on the tabletop. And you get quite a few of them in each kit, which is pretty awesome as well. As I say, all available in 12 mil. So it's not going to be in line with a lot of stuff that already exists out there in sort of 15 for Flames of War and that kind of thing. But if you're looking at a game in particular, maybe a set of rules that you've picked up and, it does cater to all those different kind of scales, this is a pretty good option for that. And they're not just stopping at tanks either, because they've also got a whole bunch of support vehicles on the way. They've been teasing things like half tracks and not Humvees, but half tracks and that kind of thing. They're also working on a whole set of inventory as well. So if you want to collect British, German, or American, I think is the focus right now, they're going to have a whole selection of 12 mil infantry to go alongside that too. All of it's really nicely sculpted. And I believe we looked at it in the past on the weekends as well on that front. But yeah, Victrix 12 mil World War II range now firing up and ready to go for everyone who likes that kind of plasticky World War II goodness.
Now, this is the point where I reach deep into Jerry and reach deep into the collective mind of art. Because this is, it happens to me often where I run up against my own ignorance, believe it or not. And this is one of those times. What does, I am very curious. I'm trying to understand what 12 mil would bring to the tabletop over more established scales like 15 mil or 10 mil. Why drop from 15 to 12 and not drop from 15 to 10? Because we know that they're capable of making models at 10 mil that would look just as good as those models at 12 mil. Is this about being able to get more onto the tabletop? At which point, will you get enough more on there? Oh, somebody's at the door. Will you get enough on there to have made the scale drop worth it?
The first thing we have to say is, and this is something that we all default to all the time, millimeters aren't scale.
Oh, well, okay.
So they've put 12 mil on it because people expect to see a millimeter size, but if you look, they're all combined. They're actually 1 to 144th, which is a scale. And it's a massively supported scale. If you Google 144, you'll find Rebel, Airfix, and the like have been making stuff for about 50 years in that scale. So there's already a wealth of stuff out there. Okay. So the fact that they've stuck 12 mil on it because people were asking them, because I know whenever I seen it, I thought the same thing. Why is it just to carve out their own little niche? Yeah. But actually, there's probably more stuff out there in that scale.
So it actually proper scale wise,
1 to
144. Yeah, Jerry, there's a reason I reach deep inside you, man.
I appreciate it.
I have a question as well for this. Say you and your mate both have your armies built from this.
Yes.
would it allow you to play 15mm and 10mm scale games without too much breakage of the game systems?
Oh, you can play it without any
Oh, yeah.
breakage of the system.
Yeah, but it's maybe like a half step between where it's saying you can use these for any game, and because it's in that half step between, you can happily play your 15mm and happily play your 10mm.
A lot of games that are scale, I'm not going to say agnostic, some of them will have specific ranges, and they go, if you're playing 28 or 156 or whatever happens to be, use this range band, and then if you're playing 15mm to 10mm, you use this range band, and then if you're playing 6mm or below micro, you'll use this. So generally, if they do have multiple scales available, there's no distinction whenever you're playing 15, 12, 10, whatever it happens to be, that you're classing it. So it will be, for those games, it's fine regardless.
That was just a little brain fart of mine.
The proper scale thing didn't occur to me, Jerry. But now that you put that out, you know, that's a massive scale in the scale modeling.
Yeah, and the fact that they've put this under a subheading of not just Victrix but Victrix games.
Yes.
I wonder, are they planning on releasing a system of their own at some point?
They could well be. Yeah. So.
That was my thought. Was, you know, if you're going to release a system, great. Always happy to see a system and see how it goes. But it just that 12mm just I just couldn't work out, because it didn't seem like a step down enough from 15 to have made any clear difference on the tabletop to me.
Interestingly, a lot of the people that have sculpted this range have also done stuff in 15, I believe, as well. So they've done things for other companies in 15mm and that kind of thing. So a lot of the talent is still there and all that kind of thing carrying on over. And a lot of people have really enjoyed the detail on these, which I think is one of the key things.
But it's the fact that they've just tacked that we now have Victrix games, because they've released, obviously they've been doing nothing but wargaming figures since they started. But now, potentially, we might see them actually expand into rule sets as well.
I'd like to see that. I'd like to see what they're
curious. I've been watching it.
They've definitely got the range across a hell of a lot of different historical periods.
Oh, yeah, they have a lot to dive into if they want to.
Right. Next up, the Lumineth Realm Lords.
I don't like these.
They're coming out this weekend.
Yes. So, available this weekend is the, and I should stress this, limited edition. Lumineth, Lumineth Realm Lords boxed set for you to start up an army of these new creatures, warriors, for use in Age of Sigmar. So this is effectively like a little bit of a launch sort of promo thing from Games Workshop, where it's like, if you really like these miniatures and you want to dive in and start this army, this is a good way to do it before all of them become available as part of like start collecting kits or individually later on. You'll get the Light of Eltharion, who is the sort of ghostly reanimation of one of the heroes of the old world, as it was, brought back to life, plus a selection of classically, obviously you're doing elves, spearmen and cavalry for you to use in the game. This also then comes with the sort of core rules box, book, plus a limited edition version of the army book for the Lumineth Realm Lords as well, which comes with the artwork of one of their sort of more elite units on the front. And then, of course, you get a whole bunch of other limited edition stuff. So you get things like tokens, dice, and all those sort of finangly bits as well at the same time. So, if you like the idea of playing Lumineth Realm Lords and you don't want to wait, then make sure you get involved and pick up a Lumineth Realm Lords box set for this launch of them this weekend.
I'm shocked they're on horses.
Do you think it should also be on cows?
No, but white lions or something, or just
what the white lions
they're moving so far away from the old world, and they're relaunching essentially the high elves in a completely different way with this massively moon and bull looking format. Putting them on horses just seems to jar. They should have just really went, you know what, chickens.
I would have loved to see them on lions, like the white lions of Thrace.
Like the white lions,
so cool.
Yeah, just go. That's like the I can't remember the Sigmarines. Stormcast.
Griff Cavalry.
Griffs or those big dragons, the Star Dragons.
Yeah. I think is this the first faction, Ben, that has actually just had regular horse cavalry? I can't think of any other ones that have it.
I think the Daughters of Cain still have like witch elves on horses, maybe, potentially.
Okay, I'm just curious, because so far, anytime they've brought this out, they've tried to make the cavalry like really characterful, really just individualized to the race.
I think it's probably one of the newest factions. So like a complete redesign of a race that has had like horses as part of it. Because I think a lot of them are still carryovers from previous editions. Like even the Chaos Warriors, a lot of their stuff is based on like the old Chaos Knights and that kind of thing. They did include their like massive hulking like lizard creature, like a salamander style thing. But as kind of like that's what the Chaos Lords now ride. But horses are still a thing within there.
Well, fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. It's a box set that I suspect is going to go very quickly. I have a feeling that box set's
there's a lot of people who've been waiting for it for a really long time as well, because this was obviously previewed way before COVID and coronavirus. So
yeah, right. That's your lot. After this, we're going to have a look at the Indomitus box.
Did you win one of our prizes? Find out on our prize claim center over at OnTableTop.com. Here we list all our previous prizes and those who have won. If you see your username, fill out the form to claim your prize. All prizes must be claimed within 30 days. Congratulations if you're a winner!
Right. This is the box set that we're going to be giving away.
Yeah, it's the part of the show that you know this is why they brought me in.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah, basically.
This was claimed now by the folk in the Warhammer community to be the best box set they've ever made.
And the best value box that they've ever made, apparently.
Ooh,
so,
that's interesting.
Did they claim that?
They did. They said they said on the live stream that there is a ridiculous saving in terms of buying these. So I don't know how much this is. I don't know how much this is, but yeah.
Well, now to be fair, we do know there's a price rise coming in July.
Yes.
Well, yes,
because they've announced that. So,
but yeah, so this is Indomitus. Indomitus is the name.
First things first, Ben. Talk us through the box set till we
we
see what it is that we're talking about.
Okay, so the Indomitus launch box, and I'm going to stress this again. This is a launch box. It's not a starter set.
It's a limited edition celebration of awesomeness in a box.
It doesn't come with dice or anything like that for you to start playing the game, although of course you can. But it's a launch box for fans of Warhammer 40,000.
Yes.
And it contains 2 practically full armies of Space Marines, Primaris Space Marines, and Necrons, all of these models are completely new.
Yes.
So these are entirely new miniatures for the new edition of Warhammer 40,000. As well as the miniatures, which we'll look at in a second. You're also going to get a limited edition version of the core rulebook with new art on the front, showing Gulliman going up against Abaddon the Spoiler, but we'll look at that later.
This is also the 9th edition rulebook, though, isn't it?
So this is the 9th edition rulebook, so the newest edition of the book.
Me want right now.
Yeah. And also you get a scenario book as well, but we'll look at this in a second. But anyway, everyone just wants to see the miniatures. Yes. So if we scroll down through this, we start off with the Primaris Captain, who comes with a series of different head options. So there's the option there, which is kind of like the half helmet, where he's lifted the top of it up.
Yeah, the visor's open. I like the design of this.
On top of that, which is cool. You can also get one without the helmet on at all, or a full closed helmet too.
I like his little skelly on his shield as well.
Yeah, and this was one of the interesting models that kind of points us in the direction of what Games Workshop are trying to do aesthetically with the Space Marines now, in trying to tell a story of the Primaris. And they talked about this on the live stream as well on Saturday, is that they've now decided to go back towards that grimdark look for the Space Marines. Because obviously when the Primaris first came out, they were all shiny and new, no skulls on them, that kind of thing.
Clean.
Very clean, very proper. But this is them sort of saying, now the Primaris have embedded themselves within the Space Marine chapters.
Yeah.
They're known and respected by their brothers and that kind of thing. And so now they're starting to move away from that idea of where these clean-cut soldiers, hoorah, to like faith in the Emperor, you know, protect and serve, that kind of thing. Skeletons on shields, skulls everywhere, that kind of thing. They've gone back to that look across the range. Which I think is
I quite like that they've done this because it shows a progression of the actual character behind the the Primaris Space Marines. Because to begin with, they were very much what you would imagine old school Space Marines were like whenever they were first made back in the Horus Heresy. And this is now them. They're taking on those traditions and they're actually really becoming parts of their chapters.
Like clones in the prequel trilogy.
Jerry.
Yes, exactly. Actually, like between phase 1 and phase 2, yeah,
200,000 and a million more on the way.
Jerry, help me here. I must be a cynical sod, God. I must be a cynical sod because I understand what you're saying, guys. I really do. But I'm looking at them and going, no, it's not. They're making them look like
bigger Space Marine.
Yeah, they're making them look like Space Marines, so it's easier to replace the Space Marine.
I'm just telling you the story reasons why they're doing this. I still totally agree with you, but I'm telling you the story reasons.
And I appreciate the effort. I do appreciate the effort, but it sticks in my throat. And it's not because I'm annoyed or angry. I'm quite happy to see Space Marines replaced. I have no issue whatsoever.
It should be at this point.
Times move on. I will always love little Space Marine armies that I have. I have no issue with them, and I have no issue with them looking different. The same way as I have no issue with the older Terminators compared to the newer Terminators. I just don't.
I need newer Terminators.
But what you're telling me just does not seem to get past my bullshit filter.
It'll be interesting to see what they do later on with orcs.
Yeah.
Because there's no way orcs can stay orcs and look like a threat. So are they going to go, these are special orcs that have been bred by the old ones?
Well, there's actually already a narrative reason for the orcs to get bigger, which is that they grow to a proportionate size to the opponents that they're facing.
Like
if you read,
when did they add that piece of shit?
Saga of the Beast.
Orcs get bigger with age. That has been what orcs do for years, forever, since day one.
Saga of the Beast, because otherwise, where the hell is the prime?
Oh, right. Oh, my lord.
All right, so they're koi carp.
So, yeah.
Carp now, yeah?
Well, that's my takeaway from what I've read. I could be talking out my ass.
Oh.
This is look, guys, this is the classic danger of setting your IP in stone and setting rules based on the limitations that you have, and then suddenly finding yourself that you no longer have those limitations, but your backstory has those limitations cut into them. This is why it's potentially story breaking a little bit. It takes no, it's only a story. It's like Jerry, it's like space opera stuff, man. Yeah. No, you just let it wash over you. But if you have any sort of a bullshit filter built into you at all, it sticks in the throat. Do you know what I mean? And it's I would find it easier to accept.
Just go, these are the new generation of Space Marines.
New generation of Space Marines.
We said that from the first time they talked about the Primaris. But anyway, that was miniature 1.
all right, okay.
Yeah. Good job, Dan. Keep us on target.
I appreciate that.
I know. Yeah,
that's the politest way of telling me to shut the up.
but we can have the discussion in more depth when you see even more of these as well.
You're absolutely right.
Personally, I'm loving the designs.
The horse is well and truly dead. I will stop flogging now.
So this is the Primaris.
I'm warning you now. If my bullshit filter triggers once more during this, I will raise it.
That's fine. Okay, so this is the Primaris Lieutenant, which is cool. So whenever we see anything new Space Marine, it's basically a meme now. There's going to be a Primaris Lieutenant in the mix.
Yeah,
so that's
the interesting thing for this one, it looks like he's got a voltaic weapon.
He does. He's got a Volkite pistol.
Yeah, which was traditionally more a Mechanicus weapon.
Yep. So it's sort of drawing on the idea that they've drawn a lot more sort of stuff from different factions, that kind of thing, throwing that into the mix.
Very cool model.
Very cool model. We've got the Primaris Chaplain.
Love him.
So they've scaled up as well, which is pretty cool.
Well, we already did have a Primaris Chaplain, but this is, one of those moved along ones where he's got more iconography and stuff on him, which I quite like. This is
my favorite. See, I really like this model. I think the Judicar is one of my favorite models of the set. But
I love everything about it except the head.
It will certainly make transitioning between Age of Sigmar and 40k easy, because he can be played in both.
Yeah.
The armor style is very similar.
With head, Justin.
I don't know. I don't like the design of it. I do not
Right.
like the design of his head. I really hope there's a head swap option in there.
There is. I
That,
think.
or I am going to grab like a Mark III helmet and pop it on there.
We'll find one of them wee Justin heads that were printed out for you years ago.
That would be good.
We'll stick
That
on
I think has already been used on
We made
Butcher
you into
3.
a Space Marine.
No, it was
reporter, so-
Butcher 3. The Space
okay.
Marine one was a custom one that I had Thomas Menes do.
Oh,
yeah.
Justin, do you know what, man? After the show, I'll go on to Thingiverse, okay? And I'll do a search for testicle. I'll print it out for you, man, nice and small, and you can stick that on instead, and it looks just like you.
So leading on from the Judicar, or Judicer, as I think they called him in the thing, we've also got the Blade Guard Ancients and the Blade Guard Veterans.
Yeah, I'm
So
not
they're-
so much a fan of the cowl thing that this guy has.
Yeah, so this is kind of, I guess you'd say, if anyone remembers Honor Guard, I suppose, from
Yeah.
the Space Marines, it's basically them sort
Okay.
of rolling forward into the next sort of like new iteration of those guys,
Hmm.
which again, they look cool. You know, I like the whole
They
sort
aren't
of like,
half like Stormcast Eternals, though, are they?
well, no, that's the thing is, I've always one of the things I've always really liked about 40k is that it's effectively sci-fantasy, a bit like Star Wars was always sci-fantasy. It was never really like true sci-fi, and so having that kind of like swords
Space
and
opera,
shields
man.
in the mix is really cool. I like that kind of thing because you know, combat armies for the win, but also
Yeah.
we've also got some additional characters here. So we've got the Eradicators, which are the sort of heavy weapon style troops for the Primaris.
Super heavy meltas.
Super heavy.
You see, they're not bothering with a lot of the extra rubbish and
there's no
those
roads
guys
on
are
those
very
guys.
down to business, aren't they?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Same for the assault intercessors, which we've seen before as well.
Yeah, now these are bringing me near to the topic that I really want to talk about, which is the overhaul that they've done on Overwatch, but I think I'll wait
Go
until
for
the
it.
end of the segment
Oh,
for
I
that.
suppose we're talking about combat troops, so you might as well talk about it now.
Yeah.
So,
Right. So, Overwatch has been changed so that it's now a command point to actually use it during your turn.
Yeah.
So the age of the gun line, I think, is coming to an end in this next edition. We're going to see a lot more combat-focused armies. I do have a few questions about it, though, about whether you can only use that once during a turn or if you can use that multiple times during a turn, because it is a stratagem.
Mhm.
Oh, okay, cool.
So
I like
those
that
are things I'd like cleared up.
I like
You're
that idea
saying
that it's trying to
Imperial
focus on.
Guard and Elves should be put away forever, and Tau.
Oh,
Those armies should be squatted for the next edition.
Well,
Bring them back
not
in
quite,
but they-
because
apparently, though, some of the factions will potentially, or some units,
some units will have
get
a
it
built-in.
automatically.
Yeah, and you'll also have some of them where terrain will actually help them a lot.
Yes.
So basically, if you're in position behind terrain, instead of doing the hit on 6, you hit on the 5s, or you can actually, I think, gain an extra bonus. I've got the thing open here, and it's right down the bottom of it. So it is this defensible. So if I click to share. Yeah, set to defend. Cannot fire Overwatch, but add 1 to hit rolls in the next fight phase. So you can actually brace yourself for a fight, which is a quite nice thing.
Yeah,
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, this is interesting how they've brought terrain actually into melee. It's not something that we see modeled often. We were talking
not
about
really.
this on the radio show on Wednesday night with the cult members. It's only odd to us because we don't normally see terrain being modeled into melee. But in this instance, I thought, as Justin has just mentioned there,
I like the idea of bracing.
Terrain, you're bracing yourself within the terrain.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like it. I like it.
Yeah. So you've also got 2 ways to actually be better at Overwatch. So if you're caught out in the open and you Overwatch, it's on 6s. Being in terrain, that holds steady that, okay, we can see them coming at us. We're in a defensive position.
Mhm.
And then you've got the cool-headed, which is the one you're on about, which is what some units will have to actually allow them just to have a better Overwatch.
Yeah.
Cool.
I
like
love
what
the
I see.
idea of it.
Mhm.
I love the way that they've redesigned it, and I love the idea that it's not just going to be, if I charge, I am going to get Overwatched by everybody and their granddad.
Mhm. Yeah.
So we've
Go
got
back to
the
minis. Yeah.
so we've got the
Yeah,
assault
that's
intercessors
definitely
there,
that.
which are looking, cool.
I love the design
like
of them.
I like a good chainsword. It's all good by me.
Yep.
And then the final unit from the Indomitus box for the Space
Love
Marines,
these.
as there are going to be some more, is the Outriders. So these are the new Space Marine bikers.
Now, my one concern with these is I've seen a lot of the Primaris stuff being put out in units of 3. I hope they don't do that with this.
Why?
Because I want to field a unit of 10 of these.
But you've got to buy one extra box then, Justin. That's
I don't care. No. Actually, I don't, because if I run 3 units of 10, the numbers work out.
Oh, 3 units of 10. 30 bikers. I hope to model one up as Meatloaf. And you will play Bat Out of Hell every time you roll that army. Yeah,
White Scars there, man.
Yeah, White Scars. I think Raven Guard as well.
Yeah,
we'll very happily run these.
Oh, look gorgeous as Raven Guard or White Scars.
I know a lot of people have been talking about diving into their bits box to kind of add a few more bits and pieces to these vehicles, because obviously they're quite blank slate, effectively.
Well, I mean, like you've got a lot of surface area there. If you want to add some iconography, if you want to add maybe some relics and stuff onto it, it's very, very doable.
All the stuff they have as well within the set for the Space Marines, anyway, is not chapter specific. So even though it's all been painted as Ultramarines, you can paint them as whatever you want.
So there's no sculpted iconography.
There's no sculpted bits onto the miniatures, which is good. So
let's get to the other half of the box.
The Necrons are the army that I really, really like. I've always liked the idea of like these space undead. And so seeing them have a bit more character, I think, is really cool. So we start with the Overlord there. So that's a new version of the Overlord that's going to be running.
Big, heavy, chunky, just what you want.
Massive sort of badass Catan weapon as well going on there, which is really cool. Reminds me of good old the Dawnblade and Farsight and that kind of thing. Very awesome.
Yeah, and again, the way they've sculpted this with the contrast paints, it's going to work beautifully with this.
Yeah. We've then got the Royal Warden, who is the kind of badass protector that fights alongside them, which is very cool. It's kind of like it's the equivalent of the Primaris Lieutenant from the Space Marine side. I think you'll also notice as well that across all of these Necron figures, they've taken out the glowy sticks.
I like that they've done that,
and it's gone
I really like the glowy sticks.
I quite like.
Well, then you can cut it out and put in your own glowy sticks.
You can do, true. Yeah, very true. But yeah, I like the look of the Necron characters here. Very awesome. Then we start to get to the world of crazy naming. So we've got the Plasmancer.
Right.
Who is sort of going down the idea of like Necron tech and Eldritch wizardry and that kind of thing.
It's a hell of a beard.
That is one hell of a beard.
Yeah, I like the way they've designed this one, that he's connecting via multiple points to the base to give him that appearance of him floating.
It is really cool. And then following on from that, we've got the Scorpeth Lord. Scorpeth Lord. So you will have seen not necessarily the Lord, but the destroyers which we'll see later, were included in the trailer, the big cinematic trailer that Games Workshop did for this. So yeah, looking at some new interesting sort of designs of Necrons in this sense as well.
I am going to dry brush the hell out of these.
Oh yeah, these are like my first army. We've then got
the plasma sight.
A plasma sight.
Less a fan of this one. It looks a little weird.
Oh, I like that. It's like is it an ammonite?
It does have that kind of look to it. Yeah. Kind of drawing on almost like a little bit of a Matrix robot aesthetic, which I think is really cool. We've then got the Scorpeth destroyers. So these are the ones that we saw in the trailer.
Looking really cool.
Imperial Guardsmen, looking very cool with their big Catan blades again, which is awesome. Then we've got the Canoptic Reanimator, which I know Lloyd really likes, with the kind of like the sort of War of the Worlds style thing going on. This and then one that you'll see later, kind of like these Reanimators, obviously as the name suggests, walk around the battlefield reanimating the Necrons and bringing them back to life and that kind of thing, using that reanimation protocol that everyone knows in the Necrons, which is very cool. Really awesome looking design and aesthetic to those. We've got the Crypto Thralls.
These.
Oh, I don't hate them, but they do look like a couple of dustbins.
It's like they've just stuck a jet engine housing on their shoulders. Not a fan of that one.
It's like the dusty bin of Warhammer 40K.
It's because they didn't want to bring back flayed ones.
Yes,
they didn't want to bring back flayed ones. Why not?
Well, I love flayed ones.
Flayed ones are great. Flayed ones are great, but they're only available in resin.
Oh no!
All right. Okay.
Yeah, you mean Failcast?
Failcast.
I quite like the fact that it looked like I was just in a friend of mine who played Necrons by going, "Are they your stealth troops? Are they trying to blend in with humans?"
Yes.
All the little bits of scraps of skin hanging off them.
Yeah.
Nothing to see here, human. Gak, 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 gak.
There's a great Deathcore of Krieg novel if you want to read it. Dead Men Walking.
Yeah.
That actually
I know
deals
about
with
that.
them, and it's got some
Cool.
really, really good background on them.
Right. Well, these ones for me are the only weak point in the Necron things. Maybe when I see them in the flesh, but they look a little bit odd. No. So these
Love
are
the Warriors.
Yeah. So again, as we've talked about on
And
previous
big in-
weekenders,
Justin.
yeah. So hopefully you should be able to make that big.
Yeah, but they've been chunky-sized.
Yeah. So
No,
they've been
Embiggen them,
chomped.
Justin. Make them bigger.
Oh, and sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, so this is the new Warriors kit, which comes on the bigger bases. They come with the sort of more chunky look to them to match the kind of sort of scale creep, I guess you'd call it.
Whoa. Hang on here. So they've upgraded Necrons to 32s then, yes?
Yeah.
From the look of it, it looks like they're on 32s, yeah.
See what happens is they build their bodies bigger depending on who they're fighting.
Yes.
But this comes
Okay.
with the sort of alternative ways of building them. So instead of them more just looking like fresh out the tomb Necrons, they're like all battered and broken with like jaws missing and eyes gouged out and lots of things like that.
Oh,
so
yeah.
very
You
cool.
can
You can see
that.
his brains.
Yeah, this
you
guy
see
up
his
here.
Necrony brains, yeah.
Yeah. That's clearly a target of opportunity.
Yeah.
Right. Would you say it's the best box set they've ever done?
Honestly, if I'm comparing it to Dark Imperium, far superior by
you're
country
comparing
mile.
To be the best box set they've ever done, you're comparing it to every box set they've ever done. So
See,
is it the best box set they've ever done? It was a big claim.
Yeah.
I don't personally. I don't know. I don't
What's
know.
in there? I'm going to say a tentative yes, because any box set they've done before has never really had a lot of mixture of heavy weapons and stuff in. This is a good mixture of tactical options that you'll be able to use to learn the game.
Yeah, I think the main thing for the set is that it comes with stuff that is gameable, as Justin was saying. I think that's one of the cool things. Like a lot of people will pick up a lot of the other sets and be like, well, this doesn't necessarily contain all the things that I think I would actually need if I was going to start a game. Even though this isn't a starter set, obviously.
Well, the other sets you would get, you've got some heroes, some troops, and maybe a little bit of specialists. This has a good blend of different unit types in there that I think is going to make for a very fun 1v1 game straight out the box.
If you bought 2 boxes of this, Justin,
Yeah.
Models wise, forget about the books and all of that. There, you chuck them on eBay. But models wise, which of the models become redundant? How much of it becomes redundant if you bought 2 boxes of it, or would 2 boxes of it give you 2 really good armies, or is there any point in picking up 2 boxes? You'd mentioned you were thinking of getting 2 boxes of it.
I said 1, but if you picked up 2 of these, it depends on if they're going to retool the Force Org, the way you build your armies, because at the minute with the way the Force organization is, you could quite happily run 2 of these boxes complete without any issue.
Well, they're not, are they? Because they've said that all the current codices are
they're all going to work.
are available, and we know.
Then
that
yes, you could quite happily buy 2 of them, because basically you would build this up as 2 separate formations and lay it on the table and run it legally.
But would it be looking at it, Justin? Would it be a reasonable approach? Would it be a reasonable army to like if Ben's correct and this is the best value that you're likely to get? Well, then it makes sense to me that you double down on that. You get 2 boxes of it, and you get 2 really good armies out of it. You know, it's
I would say you would have a fairly playable army out of this. You might do the usual whenever you've got the gaming arms race on the go afterwards, where my mate bought this, I need to buy that. So I mean, like, it really depends how heavy you want to go into it. Because I mean, if you're just diving in for your first time, definitely grab 1. If you're a more experienced player, hell yeah, go grab 2, because you will always run multiples of these things depending on what tactics you're running. Even if you completely change out stuff. So say I dropped out the Assault Intercessors 1 week and I was running, say, the Infiltrators more and thinking, yeah, that works a lot better. I mean, like, it's down to the tactics that you're eventually going to have and the rules you're going to see coming out for each of these units, because we haven't seen those yet.
Or do the standard, you and your friend buy a box and then swap.
Yeah.
Yep.
One of the things that they talked about on the live stream about this is that, like, I mean, they made the obviously that claim that this is a launch box, not a starter box.
Yeah.
But they were saying that, say, for example, you already collect Space Marines, whether not Primaris or not, or you already collect Necrons, this is like that perfect box for you because it adds in all of the new stuff that they're doing. So say you have a Primaris force that already contains all those core troops and that kind of thing as well. If you pick up this box, there's nothing repeated from what you already have in your collection. It's all new.
Yes. Yeah,
So for that, in that way, it's a very good idea.
Now, one interesting thing I've seen in the online store recently, Ward, is that I have seen an upswing in people picking up the start collecting Necrons.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
You know,
I'm not
so
surprised. A lot of people will be looking
Yeah,
to.
so some folks are trying to get ahead and get an army up and on the go before this lands, which is interesting to see.
Yeah.
This
There was
then
some
leads-
other stuff previewed as
yes,
well.
there was. Yes, so stuff that has become exceptionally memeable across the internet.
Well, first things first, we have the new book that's coming.
Oh
with
yes,
this
sorry.
for a
Yeah.
look
So
at.
there's the new book which features the artwork of Gulliman versus
Love the artwork.
Abaddon there on the, and that's obviously limited edition for that. And then you've got
Is
the
that
Edge
the one that comes in the box?
That's the one
Yes.
that comes in the box. Yeah.
That's
And then
lovely.
you've got the Edge of Silence scenario book. So this is for playing out games using the miniatures from the set. And they effectively said you can kind of replay the sort of fight between the Space Marines and the Necrons from the cinematic trailer. Obviously, there's no Imperial Guardsmen or Sisters of Battle in there, but you know you can kind of play out that cool stuff, which I think is really neat. But then this leads us on to what's also been teased for the future, and the first is the Mario Kart edition to Warhammer 40,000, which is
I don't like it.
the Invader ATV.
I don't see what the issue is.
Can I interject here via the medium of dance? I'd like to send a link to Justin, which will require you to then click on this link and open it. But,
I can do that. Send it in Discord.
but the thing that amuses me about this, and people kicking off stink about this, is
Yes.
somebody came up with this in 2006 and posted it on Warseer/Portent,
Oh, wow,
whatever it was
okay.
then. And I look at this and I'm going, yeah, it is. They've just taken the bike and then you've got your the front cowling over the wheels, which he reversed then, so they had to turn a bike into a quad. So he used these as his attack bikes back then.
All right.
Ah.
Okay.
The
So-
way
So at 2006, scratch built.
Yep.
And then 14 years later, GW have released something looking not dissimilar to that.
very
So
true.
it's
yeah.
not like it's a new concept.
Yeah.
All they've
I
done is
think-
go, I'll make this.
I think a lot of people just had a really nice time sticking Mario and Luigi's faces onto it,
Yeah.
and and stuff. But like it's whatever you think. If you like it, run with it, whatever. But I think it looks a bit weird and dinky. But other than
For,
that,
for me, I wish they had redesigned the land speeder instead of this to make
Why?
a Primaris land speeder.
Yeah.
Why?
They've already got enough floating tanks.
This is my point. I'm just glad the thing is on the flipping ground.
they did actually raise that point in the thing. They talked about the fact that
there
they've
have been
decided
memes
to
of
try
that.
yeah, they've tried to try and ground a lot more of the vehicles. They said for the Primaris going forward. So
Good.
I really
Release
hope there's-
upgrade packs that put tracks back on all them stupid.
I really hope there's a really good suspension on the front of that buggy, though, because every time they hit a bump, his head is going to the bottom of that barrel. And that barrel's spinning at thousands per cycle.
This is a fair point. The next one, I think whoever designed it was looking at the Germans and going, "Oh, that idiot looks kind of nice."
Yeah.
I remember what was it called? The Thunder Cannon or Thunder Strike Cannon, whatever it's called.
Fire
back
Strike
in the-
servo turret.
That was the one.
No, they're the original.
But
All
this
right.
is the Fire Strike servo turret that's been thrown into the mix as well. So
Forge World
I
have
wonder-
done
I
something
wonder
similar
if
to
they're-
this years ago as well.
That's-
So it's
How did they deploy 88s, Jerry? 88s? Were you able to pull an 88 up onto a trailer or something? Or
they put them on trailers. Certainly,
They did,
weren't,
yeah.
They weren't supposed to be, but they did put them on trailers.
no. I
Eventually
mean,
got to
how
the
did they
point-
deploy them? They were fixed positions 88s.
The four legs fold up, and then they would have a set of two boonie wheels that attach to the front and back, and then they would turn
Yeah.
behind something, and then they just took the wheels away, and then would drop the four legs wherever they needed.
Because clearly, this is going to need some kind of deployment mechanism.
If Forge World don't do some little coupling set that you can buy to do a little, in the same way historic gamers do for their idiots, where you have your little setup and there's your idiot and then there's the boonies and there's the tractor mechanism that was towing it. I'd be very shocked because there's enough stuff kicking around in there.
It might just get deep striked onto the battlefield.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then once it's there, then you can't move it, and everybody knows you want to move your 88s every turn.
Suspensors. Just stick a load of suspensors on it until it floats and then just push it along.
Oh, no more grav. No more grav.
Look, I tell you what you do.
Oh.
You basically tie on like 8 of the baby cherubs, the servitor baby cherubs with wings, so they can just fly around.
That's why they bought them back. Yeah,
that makes sense.
Okay. Right, what's next? That it's an 88. I like that.
Yeah.
We've also got two more things for the Necrons. So we've got the Locust Heavy Destroyer. The Locust Heavy Destroyer, which I think is kind of cool.
I like that.
He's a big boy.
You know, the actual grav impellers is just a little bit chunky.
Grav what? The grav what, Justin?
I've already had to put swearing in this segment on the running one. I said, geez, stop it.
Stop it at once. Yeah, it's just a thicker version of the
normal
destroyer. A bit chunky.
Yeah. Are the destroyers still going to be about, or is this guy?
I think they are.
I believe they're still part of the current range.
So this just becomes essentially like a heavy weapon.
Yeah, it's a bigger, badder version.
Yeah.
Move on to
just one?
Doomstalker.
Yeah, so we've got the last one, which is so this is the Canoptic Doomstalker, so it's the other variant of the Reanimator that we saw before.
I wonder if that's going to be a dual kit.
That makes
it probably will be, yeah.
All is right in the world. Looking at that, I'm with my brother Lloyd on this one. I like that. That's the thing that nightmares are made of, man.
If you asked Tim Burton to draw Necron, that was the sort of thing you would have got. Very long, spindly limbs, single eyeballs near the stars.
Me likey that big time.
Yeah, so that's the kind of like heavy weapon variant. It'll be blasting things around with its lasers and that kind of thing. It's Gauss weapons and stuff. So that's everything that's coming for Indomitus and what's coming in the future as well.
Guys, remember, we're giving away a box of Indomitus. So over the next few weekenders, until it actually comes out, you're going to get multiple opportunities to enter. We're going to pick one winner at random. To be in with a chance, make sure you hit like the video, make sure you're a subscriber to the YouTube channel, and post a comment. And as always, if you could give us a little share, it's by far the best way for us to get the videos kind of out and about there. So any share that you can give, entirely optional, on Facebook, on TweetBook, whatever book you use, that would be very, very much appreciated by us old grognards here who are just trying to get the word out about 10 mil, 12 mil, 15.
All those really popular games and scales.
See, this is something I don't get with the scaling. As you get older, your eyes get worse. Why are you going down in scale?
I'm painting 10 mil now, and I'm only 33. So
the reason you go down to scale is you go, it's not all about one hero punching somebody in the face. It's about being the general and commanding everything. As you get older, you become more like a general.
Before we segue, fair enough.
Big bushy moustaches, grey hair, sitting at the back, commanding young men to their deaths. Perfect, like a general should.
Exactly. It no longer becomes about them. It's just about me. Right. That's that. So I think it's time to move on to some Kickstarters. Ben, this is the point of the show where we put you on the spot every week, okay? You rarely fail us, often.
It's not about trucks, don't worry.
What have you picked for us this week?
Okay, so the first one is one that I'm actually going to look at in more detail and show off some of the miniatures in Cult of Games on Sunday. So watch out for that.
Right,
but this is the Dunkeldorf, the Prancing Peacock. So King Games run a miniatures range called Dunkeldorf Miniatures. And this is a selection of townsfolk, characters, NPCs, all these kind of things that can be used in your sort of grimdarky, old hammer style games, role-playing games, whatever you want to play. The focus of their newest campaign is on the Prancing Peacock, and it's all centered around the idea of tavern folk and people that are hanging around, having a merry good time, probably beating each other up after they've had a good few ales. They've done a really nice selection of characterful miniatures as part of this one. Some of them are returning characters from the first Kickstarter that have been done up in a slightly more of a tavern-style setting. Others of them are completely new characters for the range. A lot of them are available as metal miniatures, and the range as a whole effectively is going to be metal. But there are a select few miniatures within the collection that are going to be done in resin, just because they're slightly more
Oh my God, that
hard
bird.
to do. Yeah, they're slightly harder to do in kind of like the metal material and that kind of thing, to capture the details and stuff and the posing. But otherwise, this is a absolutely wonderful little characterful range full of lovely pieces of terrain, lovely characters, a really good way for you to set up like a nice Warhammer fantasy style roleplay collection, which I think is really cool. And as you can see, they've been bursting through stretch goals and all sorts of stuff. So.
Yeah, they are super well funded.
And when you say it has that sort of old Hammer feel, a lot of the stuff comes from their games. So Nikki and Danny have been playing Warhammer fantasy roleplay for years. So when you see these characters who look very distinct, it's because at some point in the past they've been a character or an NPC in a game that they've played.
Yeah.
So,
that's amazing.
That's why you've got these unusually, weird people, or these creepy looking merchants, or somebody with an injured hand. It's all because at some point in the past that's happened in one of their games, and so
They had a guard chicken in their game at one point.
I would imagine so. Why would they not? I would if I could. So it means that they've got a very developed, distinct feel to them. It's not just generic X, Y, and Z. I know somebody, when they were just starting out, somebody was going, "Can I get more of this type of fighter as a man, because I don't need the female one that you're doing here," whatever it is. And they go, "Well, there's loads of them out there already, and these are essentially based on things that we've done, things that we, it's not, we're not doing a generic range of musketeers. We are doing a very specific, bespoke set of weird-looking characters, which just look absolutely fantastic."
I believe over on the Kickstarter page there's like a comparison towards some of the other ranges as well, so you can see how they line up against like Games Workshop miniatures and that kind of thing too. So they're all 28mm, as I say, all metal too, which is
Bruno really the Hog. These are beautiful.
They are really nice. As I say, if folks tune in on Sunday for Cult of Games, you'll be able to see some of the painted miniatures and stuff as well that we've been working on. So.
Oh, nice.
Oh, who's this guy?
That's Herman. Herman the Mutant. Yeah.
Herman. Now, I'm not saying that Herman the Mutant is a thief, but Herman the Mutant has a candelabra in the back of that sack. Yeah. And I don't think Herman the Mutant got that from his dwelling. I don't think he goes from time to time with a 3-candle candelabra stuck in the bag just to light his own path. I think he's been filching things. Yep. He's got a sticky tentacle.
That's awesome.
Dunkeldorf, the Prancing Peacock. Look, it's a no-brainer. Excellent choice, Ben. 17 days left to go from King Games. That's an obvious one. If you're a role player, or you like your Mordheim or anything like that, you're adventuring dungeons. You just got that's a clear one to hop onto. What's next, then, Ben? How do you top that?
So next up, we're moving on to some. I'm going to put on my quirky hat.
Working at.
And this is The Walls of Skidonia by Skydes. And anyone remember Crossbows and Catapults?
Yes.
Right? This is like a revamped, absolutely crazy version of that, where 1 to 2 players, but it can be played up with 6 players, build their towers and their defenses on the tabletop. And then you take proper, big, badass-looking catapults, load them up with weapons, and fire them at your opponent's towers to try and bring them down. They have been building this and playing around with this at conventions for, I think they said, 1 to 2 years, and trying to work out exactly how to make all the towers look really good and the actual catapults themselves. But they have finally brought it to Kickstarter. It's already funded, so there's some security there if you want to dive in and check it out. But this is a really awesome little cool little game that they put together. On top of it just being firing catapults at towers, they've also put in things like there's like activation tokens and cards you can play to do special abilities. One of the abilities they showed further up in one of the videos.
Or is that
you place
Tornado?
Yeah, you put like a mark on the table, and then you'd run your fingers through their like defenses, and you knock them over as you do it. So it's a proper dexterity game in that respect as well, which I think is really cool. As I say, they've had it in the works for a while. They've gone to the effort of trying to make all these really nice looking components, as you can see here, and that's why the funding level is as high as it was and all that kind of thing too. But it looks really cool. A lot of really awesome people backing this. It's been around on like the convention circuit for a couple of years. If you like the idea of something a little bit
they've got
quirky,
different ammunition types.
They have different ammunition
Nice.
types and also things like that. Yeah, because obviously the bigger size and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's a really sort of like embellished, crazy dexterity game that I think looks really, really fun. So yeah, if this appeals to you, maybe with younger gamers or something, this could be a lot of good crack.
Ben, you are nailing it this week. You are nailing it, man. So that's Walls of Sidonia from Sidus. 11 days left. Do you know what? You've done so well, Ben. Have you another one? Give us another one.
You're going to give me another one? Okay.
Go on.
So,
can you make it 3 out of 3?
Okay. So many people will know the man, the name, the myth, the legend that is Sandy Peterson of Peterson Games. He's worked on video games and all sorts of different things like that. But he loves big stuff and he likes crazy action and all that kind of thing. Well, he's now on Kickstarter with a new game called Dinosaur 1944. So this is a cooperative game where you play World War II heroes sent to an island in the seas off Japan who would then have to face down the rampaging destruction of dinosaurs, because dinosaurs are awesome, as they try and overrun your base. All right?
Oh, mate.
The game, you will play as a bunch of World War II heroes, as I was saying before. They range from around sort of like 28 mil to 32 mil. The dinosaurs go up to 125 mil with the Brontosaurus and that kind of thing, which is pretty awesome. The whole sort of premise of the game, as I was saying before, you'll have a whole bunch of different scenarios set up. You would then have to form up your defenses, set up your ambushes, and try and survive for as long as possible while also completing side objectives from the onslaught of dinosaurs as they try and attack you. During sort of like a round and how a game runs, as you can see here, you spawn the dinosaurs that start on the tiles. Yeah. Then you'll set up all your ambushes and try and get them to take them down, and they'll fire at the enemies. Then the enemies will rush through your defenses to try and attack you, and then you'll attack them back. You know, punching a dinosaur in the face is exactly what you should be doing in this situation. And then you go to another hero setup round where you build up all your new defenses and try and survive again for the next onslaught of dinosaurs. As it's Peterson Games, they've obviously been doing loads of stuff in the past for things like Cthulhu Wars, where they've really perfected the idea of creating those big plastic models. Yeah. And that obviously is what they've been working on here as well for this. So you're going to have big, awesome dinosaur models, really awesome, weird World War II characters with a range of different styles and sort of abilities and that kind of thing to give you that kind of asymmetric nature to things, which I think is really awesome. All going together into this one crazy cooperative game. And I really like that it's cooperative, because I think that's where the fun element of that is going to really lie.
No, Warren, don't throw the stick grenade.
Exactly, yes.
Like a bizarre tower defense.
It is. It's like weird dinosaur tower defense. So, yeah.
I like this. This is cool.
Yeah. Right, that's Dinosaur 1944. Peterson Games, 7 days left. Ben, you did it.
Yay.
3 man. Right,
to live.
That wraps us up for this week, guys. Come across to On Tabletop on Sunday morning, where XLBS is going to air. You don't want to miss that. Come across, take a free trial. You get 30 days free trial these days. So come across, take a free trial, stick around, join us in the Discord, try out the radio show, and yeah, just let me shower you in my love. Oh. Right. Thanks to the dudes. Thanks to all you at home. We'll see you soon. Have a great week of gaming.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.